We've all been taught from day one that saving money is the ultimate responsible adult move, right? But what if I told you that the cash sitting in your bank account right this second might actually be the laziest, most expensive thing you own? It's true. Above a certain mathematical line, that safe cash completely stops protecting you and actually starts working against you. Let's dive in and see exactly why.
Here's our roadmap to mathematically dismantle the myth that all cash is safe. We'll cover the lazy cash trap, the tale of two savers, calculating your exact cash ceiling, the danger of what we call drag money, and finally, 3 concrete steps to fix it.
All right, Section 1, the lazy cash trap. We're going to identify a silent problem that really targets the most responsible savers out there.
So, is your cash actually costing you? You might pull up your banking app, see a solid 4% yield and think, hey, I'm winning. And on a screen, sure, it absolutely looks like a victory. But we have to talk about what's evaporating in total silence while you're busy at work. You traded literal hours of your life for that money, and now? Now it's just sitting on the bench, slowly losing its muscle to inflation.
Take a look at this number, $41,000. According to the Federal Reserve, that's the precise average amount of cash held by Americans aged 35 to 44. Now, if you leave that 41 grand in a standard account, earning absolutely nothing for just 1 year, and let's assume a totally standard 3.5% inflation rate, it quietly loses $1,400 of real purchasing power. Your bank statement is stubbornly going to say you still have $41,000, but the reality? You can buy $1,400 less than you could just 12 months ago. It is literally an invisible tax on your savings, and it just never stops collecting.
Which brings us to this absolutely crucial concept, identifying your drag money. What is that? It's basically any excess dollar in your account that isn't actively protecting you as an emergency buffer or waiting for a specific near-term goal. Think of it this way. Cash really only has 2 legitimate jobs in your life: safety and sensible near-term planning. Anything else? It's just dragging you down and creating a massive hidden leak in your net worth.
Okay, moving right into Section 2, the tale of two savers. To figure out how much cash you actually need, let's look at the danger of living at 2 totally opposite extremes.
Here's why both of these extremes completely fail. Over on the left, we've got Nathan. Nathan is terrified of market volatility, so he's hoarding like $80,000 or $90,000 just sitting in cash. He's all buffer, zero engine. Now, sure, he sleeps like a baby, but he's predictably bleeding his wealth to inflation year after year. Then on the right side, there's Cole. Cole read way too many investing blogs, completely overcorrected, and dumped every spare cent into the market with zero reserves. So what happens? A major life expense hits, say his car's transmission dies right in the middle of a market dip, and he's forced to sell his investments while they're down. Cole just locked in a real, painful $7,000 loss, all because he didn't have a cash buffer. So Nathan needed to deploy his cash, while Cole desperately needed a safety net. Obviously, the sweet spot is right in the middle.
That brings us to Section 3, calculating your cash ceiling. It's time to find your exact mathematical number so you don't end up making the same mistakes as Nathan or Cole.
Now, this is where it gets highly actionable. We're going to build the first half of your cash ceiling, which is your emergency buffer. And notice, you don't use your full paycheck for this. If a true emergency hits and you lose your job, you're not going to be out booking vacations or eating at fancy restaurants, right? You strip your spending down to the bare essentials that just keep the lights on: rent, groceries, basic utilities, and insurance. Then apply a multiplier based on your life situation. If you have a rock-solid, super steady salary, multiply that core number by 3. If you want a thicker cushion because you're a bit more cautious, multiply by 6. And if your income is lumpy, like you're freelance or commission-based, multiply it by 9, so you can ride out those longer dry spells without even breaking a sweat.
Now for the second half of your ceiling. This relies on the 5-year rule for near-term goals. Listen closely to this. Anything you absolutely need to spend within the next 5 years, a house deposit, a wedding, tuition, stays in cash. More specifically, keep it in a high-yield savings account or a short-term CD where you can lock in a guaranteed interest rate for a set number of months. Why keep it out of the market? Because over short windows, the stock market is just way too unpredictable. A badly timed crash could literally wipe out your deposit exactly when you need it most, forcing you to delay your entire life plan. No thank you.
Let's run a quick real-world example to lock this in. Let's say your bare-bones core expenses are $4,500 a month. You're fairly cautious, so you multiply that by 6 months, giving you a $27,000 emergency buffer. Add to that a $30,000 house deposit you're saving up for over the next couple of years. Boom. Add them up, and your absolute cash ceiling is $57,000. That is exactly how much cash you should be holding for your safety and your goals, not a single dollar more. Any money past this line, that's a lost opportunity.
And that leads perfectly into Section 4, the danger of drag money. Let's look at the devastating compounding cost of every single dollar you hold above that specific $57,000 line.
Look at the sheer difference in where you park your cash. A top high-yield savings account right now barely squeaks past our 3.5% inflation rate with a real return of just 0.6%. But the average giant brick-and-mortar bank, they're paying a totally pathetic 0.38%. Because of pure inertia or just not wanting to deal with the hassle of switching, most people leave their money sitting at these mega banks. And doing that basically guarantees an invisible loss of around 3% of your purchasing power every single year. You are essentially paying them for the privilege of holding your own money. Crazy, right?
But honestly, beyond the inflation issue, there's a huge psychological trap at play here called mental accounting. Keeping one massive combined pile of cash completely destroys your mental walls. When you log into your banking app and see this huge balance, you naturally feel rich. Subconsciously, that gives you permission to loosen the purse strings. It so often leads to accidentally draining your sacred emergency funds on slow lifestyle creep. A nicer dinner here, upgrading a flight there. Your brain just doesn't file that money as strictly committed to a house or a crisis. It just sees it as available to spend.
Now, looking at a 30-year trajectory really reveals the true staggering cost of drag money over a working lifetime. Say you hold $33,000 of excess drag money for 30 years. Even if you magically keep it in a top savings account that paces with inflation, it only limps along to about $40,000 in today's purchasing power. But if you had deployed that exact same amount into a conservative, broad index fund earning just a 5% real return, it grows to over $140,000. Just let that sink in. By hoarding cash out of a false sense of security, you are voluntarily missing out on a massive six-figure gap.
So the crucial takeaway is summed up perfectly right here. Inflation was never the main event. The main event is opportunity, the mountain of growth that excess cash walks away from. The real cost of drag money isn't just the quiet erosion on a bank statement. No, it's the 6 figures of wealth you never built simply because your money refused to get off the bench and pick up a second shift. You absolutely have to put your money to work.
Finally, we've arrived at Section 5, 3 steps to fix it. We've mathematically diagnosed the problem, so let's wrap this explainer up with a clean, highly actionable framework you can use today. Here is your 3-step game plan. Step 1, calculate your ceiling. Grab a piece of paper, multiply your bare bones core expenses by your multiplier, and add those 5-year goals. Step 2, move that required buffer and near-term money to a genuine high-yield savings account. Automate this. Get it completely out of sight and out of mind so you're protected from those impulse buys we just talked about. And step 3, invest the drag money. Take every single dollar above that calculated ceiling and automate it into broad, diversified index funds where it can actually compound for your future. Keep the reserves safe and deploy the rest to do the heavy lifting.
I want to leave you with this one final, provocative question. Where does your cash line sit? Seriously, take 5 minutes today to sit down and calculate your own exact number. Because now you know exactly what it costs to ignore it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and here's to making your money work exactly as hard as you do.